Okay, so today you're going to be doing a lab on probing the ocean's depth. You have a lab sheet like this in front of you. Your materials are clay. You also have 10 14 centimeter straws, and you'll need a ruler. If you're watching this video, you will actually follow along with me and plot your data with me. In class, we're actually doing this experiment. You also need a blue cover that has 8 holes punched in it. All right, there's a lab instruction sheet that we're going to follow, and you're going to need to we're going to perform the procedures as instructed. So the lab sheet looks like this. So read the introduction as soon as it focuses. There you go. So in this activity, you will model this method of mapping by making a map of the ocean floor model. So we're going to use our picture of the ocean floor and decide which picture we're going to use, but because you're watching this online, I've already decided for us, and we are going to use this picture to map out the ocean floor. Notice it has all of the features. There's a continental shelf, continental slope, continental rise, abyssal plain, mid-ocean ridge, a rift valley, a seamount, guyot, and a trench. So we're going to go ahead and use our container, which I forgot to mention is one of our tools. So we have a container here, and we're going to make a model of the ocean floor in our container using the clay. And it's going to look like this picture. Okay, so I've used the clay dough to create my ocean floor. So here I have the continental shelf going down to the continental slope. Over here is the continental rise. I left this blank because that's the abyssal plain, and that's the flat ocean floor. So if we're looking at the picture and the clay model, we can see it as such. Then here we have our rift valley, our mid-ocean ridges. Notice they're rigid like little mountains. Here we have our rift valley. Remember, wherever there's a rift valley, there is a mid-ocean ridge. Over here, we have a seamount. Moving along, we have a guyot, flat top. And then we have a trench because it goes deep down into the ocean. That's our little trench there. So it's just a representation of our ocean floor. So now we need to go back to our instructions. And our instructions say, focus this a little bit. We're on number 3. Put the blue cover over the container. And there are 8 holes labeling the positions on top of the blue cover, and we're going to put the straws in to each hole, and then we're going to not push the straws down because we don't want to ruin our clay model. We don't want to mess up our data. Number 6 says we want to make sure the straws are straight up and down, and then we're going to use the ruler to measure the length of the straws that are showing above the blue, and then we're going to record our data. So let's do that now. So here's our top over our ocean floor. We'll take our straws, put them in until we touch the clay. We're not going to push down. Deep at all. Alright, so here we have our straws inside of our clay. And we're going to take the ruler and we're going to measure how deep, we're going to measure how much of the straw is showing outside of the clay. And then we're going to be able to write our data down for that. So with position 1, taking our ruler and measuring in centimeters, there is 11.5 centimeters of the straw showing for position 1. So on our sheet, we are at position 1, and we have 11.5 centimeters showing for position 1. I'm going to do the same thing for all of the positions, and we're going to record that on here. Position 2 is 9.5. Make sure your straws are staying straight up. Position 3 is also 9.5 centimeters. Position 4 is 11 centimeters. Position 5 is 10.5. Position 6 is 10 centimeters. Position 7 is 12.5 centimeters. And position 8 is 10.5 centimeters. Now, in order to go on and finish the rest, once I've measured out, once I've measured out all of my positions, how much of the straw is showing. Now, the entire straw was 14 centimeters. Remember, I'm measuring the depth of the ocean floor, so the blue top represents something. So when we look, we're looking at what's still showing. So what's still showing is 11.5 centimeters. We don't want to know what's out of the water. We want to know what's under the water. So this is the depth of the ocean floor that we're looking at. So after we've reached below the blue top, that's what we're looking for. So we need to take 11.5 centimeters and subtract it from 14 centimeters. So when we do that, and we look at the two, we're going to need to subtract them so that we get the actual depth of our ocean floor. And again, that is what is under the blue top. So looking at 11.5 centimeters subtracted from 14 centimeters, or we can also say 14 centimeters minus 11.5 centimeters, and we get 2.5 centimeters. Now, because we want to make this a little bit more realistic and we're measuring the actual ocean floor, we're using a small representation, so we're using centimeters. We need to think about actually measuring the ocean floor, and they measure that in meters. So 1 centimeter equals 200 meters. So we'll take the 2.5 and we'll multiply it by 200, and that's going to give us 500 meters. Now you are going to do the same for position 2 through 8. Once you've done that, then you are going to graph your data. And you have a sheet that looks like this. And in graphing your data, pay attention to the axes. You have your depths starting at 0, and you have your locations, or the holes that we have there, which are here. So when we look at our data, and we'll do the first one together, we'll notice that at location 1, we're at 500 meters. We're going to use the depth in meters and the position. So at location 1, we're at 500 meters. So location 1, we need to be looking at 500 meters, and we'll plot a dot at 500 meters. Then you're going to take it and you're going to measure out, you're going to plot out each depth for each hole, and then you'll connect the dots and see what it is that you have from there. After you've done that, then you are going to answer your analysis questions. And this should say in your container. And actually, after you've measured it out, I want you to color the ocean floor brown and water blue. And then go ahead and finish your analysis questions. This concludes this part of the lesson.